Jackson.
Hey everybody, it's Captain Morgan.
The realest JB here.
Welcome to another episode of
Co-op Reviews.
All right, we're back. And it's a good one to be back on.
Yes.
Quentin Tarantino's back in the ring.
Good old Quentin.
Yeah. So when I saw the trailers, I was like, what is this movie gonna be about?
That's what everyone thought. Nobody knew
But
what
then I saw the movie, and I'm like, what was that about?
happened. Yeah. This was probably the first movie where you actually need to do some
research?
homework,
Yeah.
do some studying, do some research, really figure out everything. And I was kind of disappointed in myself because I was not as big of a film nerd as I thought I was.
Okay. Oh no, I mean, but like all the film nerd stuff was like far beyond our era.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
it was
Yeah.
60s and before.
Yeah, this is definitely CHC, classic Hollywood cinema, film nerd.
Yeah, I mean, I think our film nerddom like ends at the early or mid 70s.
Yeah, it's
probably.
about the Renaissance.
Yeah, I mean,
About the
like there's
Renaissance
Hitchcock,
from
but
there.
before,
Yeah.
you know, other than that, it's like I don't know anybody. It's like the
Hitchcock,
Beatles, you know.
Coppola, all those directors,
Right,
Scorsese,
right.
all the directors that came around in the 70s that we're more familiar with, but we don't. Anything in the 60s, you guys, I'm sorry, I can't really.
It's like the Beatles. Can you name any artist other than the Beatles and Elvis that came in around that time?
in the 60s, nah.
Exactly. Overall, I and then, you know, after I talked about it a little bit, you know, with some people, I am less annoyed by it, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess it's because it's a slice of life piece.
Yeah.
It's just like here's this actor who wants more than he has. He wants to be somebody, and he doesn't want to be a nobody.
Yeah. This is probably Leo's like best movie.
I don't know.
It's right up there with Wolf of Wall Street with me.
I was gonna say, I mean, in Django, he literally smashed a glass on his hand. And kept that scene going.
He did, but this was like to me, like he channeled all of that same like rage and evilness without the racism, you know? Because you know he had that one scene, and you probably know the scene I'm talking about with the girl, where he's like, yeah, that like completely.
Oh, that scene was one of the greatest scenes ever. It just felt like it was part of a narrative the story wasn't telling.
Yeah.
Like if the narrative is gonna be about
not washed up. He's trying to stay relevant.
right,
he's
him staying relevant in the society that he's living in.
Yeah. He's one of those old school style actors, a lot like your John Waynes or your Clint Eastwoods that came up in the spaghetti western CHC era, where you know people are used to seeing his face stays the same, and then they're shifting to that because it takes place in 1969. So everything is shifting into
The
that
end of the
new
golden age, yeah.
auteur era of cinema, where you know, yeah, man, we want you to be a totally different character. Yeah, you're on these television shows, and yeah, you're shooting stuff overseas, but you know, we're trying to maintain your value. But he still wants it to keep that same rapport that he had, but this landscape is changing.
Yeah, and I think that's Quentin's critique on the film world as a whole, is that you know he
course
sees
he
a
is.
lot of people because of course he is because he's part of that old classic Hollywood style, and he loves making that kind of films, and he feels like he's irrelevant now.
Yeah, he's one of the only guys, you know, still not shooting in digital. You know, this I can't remember what millimeter this is, but it's.
I think this is just a 24 millimeter. The 85 was the Hateful Eight.
My thing about this movie, for better, for worse, there's so much like Tarantino isms and inside jokes in it.
But though that's true, the one thing that's the most Tarantino, in my opinion, there was none of it. And there was no Crazy 88 where like somebody's chopping hands off and blood's flying against the walls. Cause like, I mean, what's the most iconic scene in Reservoir Dogs? The ear scene.
Yeah.
And there was none of that.
There's
There's one
some,
scene at the end that I would say really is that style, but it's even a very light fare.
I mean, this whole
comparison.
film was a big Tarantino style slow burn. Like we said earlier, if you did not do your research and you don't know, and you weren't alive during this period and you don't know what's going on,
look up some stuff about Charles Manson before you see this, and then
Sharon
you will
Tate.
understand. Yeah, and the whole Sharon Tate murders, and things will make a lot more sense to you.
You know,
To be fair, yeah, I didn't understand Sharon's point in the movie. She never interacts with Rick or Bluth. Booth?
Booth.
Yeah, or
Cliff
Booth.
Booth, yeah.
Yeah, she never interacts with either of the main characters until the very last shot of the film.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's like, wait, what's the point?
What's the point? Until you do your research and you realize, oh, you know, Sharon Tate was murdered by the Manson family.
Right, right.
All that good stuff. And then you realize, oh, so it's a love letter to the life that Sharon Tate could have had if these two made-up characters, Rick Dalton played by Leo and Cliff Booth played by Brad Pitt,
Who also did a fantastic job.
two Hollywood, you know, just superstars on the same screen with each other, have banter back and forth, great charisma with each other.
I will say this movie is probably the most Hollywood that a Hollywood movie could be.
I mean, yeah, it's
And that's what it was going for.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was going for. It talks about the film process, the difference between being in a CHC movie versus a post-CHC movie versus a porn film versus a television show. There's a lot of references, a lot of Easter eggs, a lot of quote-unquote cameos. There's a Bruce Lee cameo in there.
That was great. I loved his character. Honestly, that was some of my favorite scenes.
This movie is definitely, you know, if you're into Tarantino and you're used to the, you know, drawn out dialogue scenes, the big wide scape shots and him just absorbing all the
Beautiful
scenery.
film for sure.
Beautifully shot, beautifully acted, produced, all that
Just
stuff.
expect a slow burn when you go into this. You know, it's a very slow paced film. I think I was satisfied overall. I might not have wanted to pay like $20 in a theater for it.
Absolutely not.
But you know, it is what it is. And you know, if you haven't seen the movie, well, make your own judgment. But if you have, I think we're going to talk about some spoilers.
Spoilers!
I do that every time. I literally put up a graphic. You don't...
I like the hands.
Okay. One of the most interesting things is Quentin is following his alternate timeline universe.
Yeah.
In which Hitler was shot to death.
Yeah, the same universe where Hitler was shot to death and the theater burned down. The same universe where there was a cowboy slave that was a bounty hunter.
You know, I mean, which is why the whole Manson story never came to fruition, because I was talking to somebody online and they made a good point. It's Tarantino in this movie is illustrating that how media and how the media of the time can change the world that it's in.
Yeah. The whole point was they were going to kill whoever was in Terry's old house. And it was established earlier that, you know, the Polanskis were living in Terry's old house. And it was like, hey, murder everyone that's in that house.
Yeah.
You know, but then Rick came out there and did some Rick shit. Went out there, cursed them out, called them dirty hippies, and told them to skedaddle.
Yeah.
And then they were like, you know what? Nah, fuck that. We're going to kill that guy.
Yeah.
You know? For their own hippie reasons. It's not because he yelled at them. It was for, you know, it was that little thing that changed the course of history. You know,
it was one man, you know, who is, you know, a entertainer changing the world.
Cannot get enough of how much I loved Leo in this movie. I mean, Brad Pitt was good, but Leo to me was just, there's so many layers he worked with. You know, and he just accomplished it, and it was just so great. Like, I didn't want him to get the Oscar for The Revenant, because The Revenant was such obvious Oscar bait, which he got anyway, which he deserved. But to me, this is the movie.
This would have been a better one to be his.
This is the movie, because he has all the ranges in this movie. He has, you know, sad, like such complicated emotions, dude. Like, I felt it.
I mean, it's not one of my favorites, you know? I mean, I think the interesting thing about Tarantino films is he's kind of got his own genre at this point.
He does.
It's less that he works in genres, and he works in his own genre that is an amalgamation of a bunch of, like, classic genres, all tropes, all put together into a new modernized design. And I think that, I mean, to me, I think the best film he ever did was Inglourious Basterds. because I thought that was such an amazingly written film, and it just had these amazing character moments and everything. It felt more like Jackie Brown to me. And there's a whole slew of people that say Jackie Brown is the best film he ever made, and I think it is one of his much lower
It's comparable.
points.
I mean, it's not one of my favorites, but I could see why someone would suggest that.
Right. I think they're very similar films. You know, they're more about a slice of life. You know, like here's a character and here's what they're doing. In Jackie Brown, is more about the two main characters, the Samuel L. Jackson's character and then Jackie Brown.
Pam Grier,
Yeah. And then, but this one was more about, it had more of an ensemble cast with the three main characters.
Yeah.
Because again, Sharon had this whole story that didn't really touch the other characters at all until the very end.
Yeah, and dude, once you really realize the weight of everything, you can kind of forgive him for certain things. Like, when you don't do your research and you watch this naked, you're not going to understand why all the shots, why the focus is on Sharon Tate, because she doesn't really do anything. You know, she's just being Sharon Tate, and he doesn't care. Like, that's the thing. Like, we can sit here and talk, but Tarantino doesn't care about our
Tarantino's gonna Tarantino.
Tarantino's gonna Tarantino. You know, but to me, it's not his best. Not gonna say it's his worst, because I don't think Tarantino.
He's got a very high caliber like collection though. You know, all of his none of his stuff is bad, except maybe Death Proof. It's probably his lowest on the totem pole. That's because it was a double feature.
Yeah, I don't take Death Proof seriously.
Yeah, exactly.
If you take Death Proof seriously, you're watching it wrong.
Exactly.
You know, like Death Proof is 100%. That's Tarantino's version of like a popcorn.
Oh yes, absolutely. Yeah, no, it's just super cheese. It's just all cheese and there's no real depth to this film. I'm looking forward to his next film. You know, I didn't like The Hateful Eight as much as I liked Django, and I don't like this one as much as I liked The Hateful Eight. So I'm hoping that his next one will be another high bar.
I hope so too. The thing about that he's getting with the past two films is he's getting way more artsy with all of his stuff. He's getting really in love with his shots. He's really in love with the stories that he's developing and the worlds that he's developing.
Which more the characters, the characters more than the story even.
Yeah. You know, Django was focused. Kill Bill was focused. Even Pulp Fiction was focused. Everything had a purpose.
And that's an interesting point, because I think Pulp Fiction has a similar narrative where it's about it's kind of a slice of life, but the characters were vastly different in this one than they were in Pulp Fiction versus Hollywood.
Yeah, I agree. But the thing is like, Hollywood, there was a lot of shots that didn't need to be there, conversations.
Very long takes, very unnecessarily long takes.
Unnecessary lines that really didn't need to be there. But, Tarantino throws those lines in there just to, laugh at himself, just his little...
Pat himself on the back.
Yeah, his little Tarantino inside jokes, which is fine. But, when he did it in the past movies like your Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, Foxy Brown, stuff like that, they all did lead up to something. They all did have a purpose. But you look at this and Hateful Eight, where you get some of that naturalistic dialogue, but it's really not going to go anywhere. It's really there just for the sake of
it's there for the story and developing the characters. Yeah, that's exactly it. Which is interesting because that's how this movie feels. It feels like it's about characters over. It's about more substance than style in a way.
Yeah, it's characters over plot.
For me, this is, if you're not a huge Tarantino fan, I say this is wait till Netflix.
Oh, most definitely.
Yeah,
most definitely. If you're not a Tarantino person and you saw a movie and you hate his style and all that good stuff, you will not like this movie. You will not. You will sit there. When I went and saw this movie, there were two dudes right next to us and they were asleep. Not every Tarantino film is Django.
Yeah, I mean, if you ever saw Django or Kill Bill and were like, you know what, this movie's okay, but I wish there was less murder, this is your movie.
Oh yeah.
This is your movie.
There's only a smidget of murder in this movie. But if you like Tarantino's style, his conversations, his shots, and stuff like that. There's a good time to be had in this movie. It's just it takes a while for it to get there.
Let us know what you thought. Did you like the movie more or less than some of his other films? What's your favorite Tarantino film? Post that in the comments. If you enjoyed it, hit that like button.
Like and subscribe, folks.
And as always, I've been Captain Morgan.
I've been the realest JB.
Thanks for watching another episode of
Co-op Reviews. You will know my name is the Lord when I place my vengeance upon thee. Pop, 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 pop.